مرحبا again ب KnowledgeNet the fifth webinar. هذا الويبنار الخامس اللي نحن عم نعمله. Welcome everybody. اليوم عنا أكبر عدد مشاركة الحمد لله. أول شيء بدي بلش إنه I'm so sorry about the technical issue اللي صار مرة الماضية. It was out of our hands. بس سبحان الله يعني لعل كل تأخيرة فيها خيرة. اليوم صار عنا عدد مشاهدين أكبر. يمكن الويبنار اليوم عنده عدد مستمعين لهذا السبجكت وقدر ينعرف أكثر إنه في هذا السبجكت بسبب هذا التأخير. بس anyways, welcome everybody. I'm so happy today. It's very special webinar for me. عم بستضيف انجينير ريم أشرف معنا. نحن بصدد هيدا السيريز of webinar مع KnowledgeNet as part of the awareness program يلي KnowledgeNet عم تعملها. نعطي شوية نبذة صغيرة عن what are we trying to do. Our vision in KnowledgeNet هي إنه نساعد الاندستري الايكو سيستم كلياته انه يتعرف اكثر على مواضيع بتخص هذا اندستري وكثير مهمه بالنسبه للانتربرينورز، بالنسبه للستارت ابس اللي موجودين بالفinTech، لحتى يقدروا يعني يخططوا لخطاهم بهيدي المرحله من عمرهم البيبي، اذا بدنا قسينا كلياتنا بالبيبي ستيبس بهذا الاندستري. شفنا بكنولجنت انه this is very important انه نحن كل مره نحاول انه to tackle one of the most viable and most interesting subjects لحتى تساعد الانتربرينورز. اسمحوا لي اول شيء اقدم انجينير ريم اشرف. she is our VP. هاي كيفك ريم اليوم؟ She is a VP. She is our VP product growth in KnowledgeNet. She is a growth catalyst with more than 15 years of experience in creating business scalability, a growth impact in the MENA region through execution of growth profitability initiatives aligned with emerging business strategy. She is recognized for her building strategies, partnership, development business, and creating revenue generating verticals through the pipeline of MENA B2B and B2C markets. باختصار كتير كبير، ريم is our go-to لما بنحكي عن الجو تو ماركت الجي تي ام بالفinTech industry. She is known for her capabilities of building those relationships يلي بتخلي الفinTech or يعني حسب الاندستري ما شاء الله هي عندها a long history of different industries يقدروا يوصلوا للموشن اللي بدهم اياها. اليوم حنختص بالحديث مع ريم بنحاول ناخذ اكثر ما فينا من الخبره تبعيتها بقصه الجو تو ماركت بالفinTech ايكو سيستم. ريم, thank you so much for joining us. It's really a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. خلينا بليز ريم try to يعني احنا معنا وقت بسيط بس نحاول قد ما فينا نحكي عن الفinTech ايكو سيستم بالعموم. ليش فinTech is the trend؟ ليش اليوم it is a trend اصلا؟ What do you see in this industry؟ شو اذا فيك تعطينا مثل سناب شوت عن الاندستري اللي موجوده بالجي سي سي او بالمينا ريجن ككل. واخر شيء اذا كان فينا كمان ناخذ فكره عن التك ترندز. اجينا شويه ايميلز من كذا حدا مشترك من بهذا الويبينار كان عم يسال عن البراكتسز والفيرتشوال اللايف examples عن الاندستري اللي موجوده. I will give you the mic. اي حدا عنده اي سؤال بيقدر يبعث على الشات. Or after your presentation, we will start tackling some of the points interesting بالموضوع. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maya, for a very lovely introduction. I'm humbled, yani, by the words that you've explained me with. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here today. We're very excited to talk FinTech MENA. I believe it's a very, very exciting times to be an entrepreneur and to create an idea that will be very well perceived and absorbed in the MENA economy and the wider MENA population and region. I have a presentation that I want to share with you.
Sure. Perfect.
Okay. طيب. Is the screen ready? Can you guys see that? Okay.
I can see it. إن شاء الله everybody can see it.
إن شاء الله. Okay. Global fintech adoption. Let us talk a little bit about numbers around fintech. What's happening in the world with regards to fintech? Okay. Global fintech industry has seen widespread adoption وخصوصا بآخر سنتين. ليه حصل كده؟ انتي سألتي ليه why is fintech being adopted in a great deal globally وكمان بالمينا region. Two major crises, let me put it this way, that have helped or aided the adoption of fintechs globally. أول حاجة financial crisis ب 2008. Consumers began to take issues with the big banks بwall Street. ما بقاش فيه كم infinite trust اللي موجود in the big names. The second crisis is the global pandemic in 2020 and 2021. It's put a rocket packs بالfintechs. in-person brick and mortar institutions they had to close down. فالناس كان لازم يعملوا work around consumerism in general and the financial services that are acquainted with the consumerism. Okay, second يمكن anecdote that we want to talk about in global fintech adoption is the funding. It's crazy. يعني funding is again skyrocketing. 125 billion more or less. يعني في reports تقول 132 billion 2021 closure وفي reports تانية قالت 125 billion raised in 2021. أكبر سنة بالfintech raising والfunds ever since يعني fintechs started. This really shows the kind of interest حتى venture capitalists أو angel investors أو investors in general, whether they are governmental, individuals, companies, they are looking at with respect to fintechs. The third thing, the third anecdote that we want to talk about is the unicorns. Let me just put a definition on the unicorns for the audience in this webinar. Unicorn يعني شركة الvaluation بتاعها is at $1 billion before it goes public. يعني when as long as it's private. So 193 fintech unicorns, دول 45% من the global total of unicorns were born only last year. يعني one unicorn every 2 days. This is a very big deal. Very big deal. Yeah. So again, it's super exciting times for fintechs globally, and طبعا zooming into the MENA region as well, because this is all a reflection going on into the MENA region. Okay. What are the fintechs about? Why are they gaining that much hype, adoption, valuation, funding? لأنه they are servicing financial services. They're providing financial services to consumers. Digital payments طبعا they lead by funding, ecosystem value, and new unicorns. Crypto DeFi is growing much faster than any other sector. What are the sectors that we are talking about? We're talking about payments, we're talking about wealth management, crypto and DeFi, which are the digital currencies of today's world. We're talking about banking, mortgage and lending, which is essentially BNPL, buy now, pay later, financial management solutions, insurance, and RegTech. The numbers are, again, they're so big, but fundamentally, it's payments and crypto and DeFi. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit into the MENA world. Yeah. Very interesting هنا. We could see Saudi Arabia having 155 fintechs UAE 400 plus. Again, there are other reports that are talking about 550 plus in UAE, Bahrain 100, Egypt 70 plus. Again, in other reports, they're talking about 120. So the reports here, Maya, month on month, they are changing and they're expanding, because given the numbers that we're talking about and the scalability and the expansion that we're talking about in fintech adoption, fintech fundraising, and fintech go live, every month is much bigger than the previous month. Some analysis here that we are looking at in the MENA region. Tremendous growth طبعا in a very, very short period of time. We're talking about 18 fintech deals in 2015, 2019, 417% increase with 75 deals. طبعا highest on record. Again, it's a reflection of what's happening globally. It's a subset, let me put it this way, of what's happening globally. 80 new fintechs were registered in H1 2021 in DIFC, which is the Dubai hub of fintechs. The concentration طبعا areas in MENA region, we're talking about KSA, UAE, Bahrain, and Egypt. They account to 84% of the total number of fintechs in the region. The top 50 fintechs who are funded in the MENA region, we're talking about nearly 3 billion in total funding. The top 10 alone is almost 2 billion in funding. طبعا UAE has a big share there. We're talking about 22 fintechs at 1.8, KSA 12 fintechs, and Egypt are 7 fintechs. Let me answer one of the questions that came to us over emails. Hina, we're talking about the unicorns in the MENA region. The 2 unicorns in the MENA region are Egypt's Fawry and KSA's STC Pay. It's a proud moment for MENA when both of these companies were publicly listed as the MENA's first 2 unicorns. طبعا UAE has a lot of success stories again around Reem and Souk, but they're not fintechs, but again they are big tech companies that made it to global billion-dollar valuation. To answer implicitly here, what made these 2 companies, Fawry and STC Pay, to be valued at a unicorn level, it's because they are servicing the public. Fintechs, in their essence, should add value to the underbanked and the unbanked population globally, and more so in the MENA region. Fawry and STC Pay solved that equation. And they created the secret sauce to solve that equation. Interesting. Great. Enough with the anecdotes and the figures, global or regional. Let's talk about emerging tech trends, in the fintech world. There are a lot of buzzwords, hashtags that we see around LinkedIn, seminars, summits that we're attending, the social videos that are being shared around fintechs. So what is the hype about? Again, it's a changing financial ecosystem. A lot is going on. It's a transformational time in every stakeholder, internal, external, regional, local, governmental, individual, around the financial sector. Obviously, the first and foremost is something called open banking. I hope everyone in this audience has heard open banking at least once. Okay, so what is open banking? It's essentially the open sharing of data, of financial data of consumers. This is arguably the very basic definition of open banking. Today, or historically, let us put it this way, today it's already in the transformation. The customer had a one-to-one, peer-to-peer relationship with the banks, no one in between, no intermediaries, nothing. Bank provides some services, customer picks up those services, and that's it. With open banking, and that's the future, the customers have a lot of matrix-like interconnectivities between intermediaries, between banks and across banking services, not necessarily with the same bank, but with other banks that the consumer can avail. In my very humble opinion, the biggest beneficiary of the open banking in the MENA and in the world is the consumer, which is amazing.
So true. Amazing.
Some buzzwords, as I've mentioned earlier, في APIs, embedded finance والTPPs اللي هم third party providers. APIs هم links between الدوت والكيبل in between اللي انتم شايفينها دي بتبقى predominantly APIs. Embedded finance is the wider umbrella under which open banking is at. يعني in the next 10 years we're talking about embedded finance is going to have a business of $7.2 trillion as reported by actually most of the big fours globally. Embedded finance is the overarching science, let me put it this way, that open banking, I think, is the first wave in. TPPs are the third-party providers, our partners. Again, as I said, في technical terms, we're going to have a lot of extra stakeholder groups that are going to be part of the picture between the consumer, the customer, and the banking service, part of which are TPPs. There are so many other buzzwords there, but it's a non-exhaustive list. Second thing is blockchain. Blockchain, I think, is the foundation of the future of finance. Let's put it this way. It's essentially creating blocks of files, validated, verified, untouched, untampered, a lot of verification transactions that are added over that block, and then they create a chain on that block, hence the blockchain. Again, it goes to a completion of transaction that is completely untouched by human element. So this is great. طبعا في a lot of buzzwords there, something called DLT, digital ledger technology, DeFi اللي هي decentralized finance, which is essentially built over blockchain. NFTs طبعا is a product over blockchain. This is the new craze that is happening today in the world. NFTs اللي هي non-fungible tokens, again built over blockchain. So essentially any data file, be it picture, currency, video, voice, anything that could be built on top of this. I've attended a global webinar that was discussing blockchain cryptocurrency at a global mass. They were talking about blockchain in the healthcare, blockchain in education, blockchain in everything, in every sector of the economy. Blockchain is going to be part that is creating that architecture. طبعا blockchain has to come hand in hand with digital currencies. Everybody now has heard at least once something called Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrency, stable coins, CBDCs. CBDCs, but to define the acronyms in this webinar, اللي هي the coins that will be generated or are generated by central banks. اللي هي central bank digital currencies. So yes, digital currencies are a part of the future of finance. It's built over blockchain. It's obviously going to be part of the wider embedded finance ecosystem and science. So again, going back to the purpose of today's meeting, fintechs have to design their business models or their architectures around the future of financing. And they have to be very, very well aware, if not adopting, of the new pillars of this ecosystem. So, which brings us to the question, what are the tech strategies to succeed and win in this transformative ecosystem, global, regional, local, national? Okay, how do we get it right? Yani, let me just put a very big disclaimer there. There is no one size fitting all. Every business, every fintech has a problem to solve. They have a business model to create, to architect, to fabricate. They have their own archetypes in terms of customer base, and there are طبعاً common denominators that we're going to be discussing in this webinar. But again, each and every founder, CEO, co-founder, even any just person with an idea of a fintech, they have to do a very, very thorough analysis, homework, يعني زي housekeeping exercise as to how to create my own secret sauce to service the maybe the underbanked or the unbanked in the MENA region or the global group. My take on how to get it right, there are some points that I'm going to discuss here. Technology element. A lot of the fintech owners or founders are essentially financiers. They've seen a problem statement that they want to solve in the finance world, and they are embarking on a journey to solve that, and they've taken it upon themselves, and they want to solve it for the greater benefit of humanity. A very, very nice way to start there. That technology is at the core of fintech. Payments is 80% technology, 20% finance. Lending, we're talking about 85 to 90%. BNPL is 90%. 90% technology. Architecture, yes, it's very, very big. Blockchain, 90%. So it's all about technology. The founders, the CEOs, the C-suite of any fintech company, they have to put technology at the core of everything. They have to tick all the boxes completely right in the technology arm of their fintechs business model. طبعاً huge reduction time to market. They have to ensure global standardization are met. There are a lot of global standards that are there, out there, frameworks. طبعاً there is the UK standard, and I think in my opinion UK حيكون a ditto of to a great deal very, very similar to what's going to be adopted in the governmental bodies in the GCC and the wider MENA region. We're seeing KSA issuing open banking frameworks that are very, very similar to the UK. They're talking about PSD2, كمان بحرين, obviously UAE, Oman, Qatar. So everyone is يعني بيكون في maybe best practices, and there aren't much variances there. So the founders of these fintechs have to adopt these global standards, regional standards, governmental standards at the start of their architecture.
Sure, I understand.
And the third, and I think even equally important, if not more important, is scalability. Fintechs should be thinking of serving the wider group. When we were touch basing on Fawri and STC Pay, they got it right because they addressed the wider market. So whether your business model is B2G, يعني business to government, B2B, B2C, B2B2C, whatever business model that fintechs are yet to adopt or create or architect, it's something that is unavoidable, that they have to scale. They have to scale geographically. They have to to scale vertically, to onboard as many of the addressable market, a wider population as possible, scale including governments and the wider TPP group in each and every geography that they are assuming. Scalability is key at the start of fintechs. If scalability is not taken care of, is not being part of the equation, then it's a huge risk. Second point, again, in my opinion, that's a huge disclaimer, is leveraging regulators. To be honest, يعني it's very refreshing to see the regional regulatory bodies adopting the open banking framework, adopting fintech framework, creating ecosystems and programs, numerous number of programs around enabling fintech startups to operate, to deploy, to adopt, to stabilize, to scale up in the regions, in the respective regions that we're talking about. We're talking about طبعا Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Egypt, Oman, I don't want to miss out any country, Kuwait. يعني very, very refreshing. A lot of programs, we're talking about incubator programs, hackathon, reg labs, sandboxes, يعني everything that fintechs could maybe 80%, 90% possibly require for them to create an architecture that is correct first time. On that note, I just want to also talk to fintechs about a small point. Perfectionism versus lean and agility. Again, maybe a lot of the founders maybe are coming from a finance background, so they're very, very well acquainted with a perfectionist, especially dealing with numbers and stuff like that. The transformational region that we're and times that we are entering into, I think it's a perfect time for us to be as agile as possible, as lean as possible, connect with the right bodies and create your MVP and release one as quick as possible. Because as I said earlier in this conversation, month on month, it's getting really, really, really quick in terms of adoption, going live, and deployment of fintechs. The third element that I think we need to get it right with is networking. Networking is very important. There is abundance of data around fintech ecosystems around the region. The big fours are يعني زي ما بيقولوا يعني let me say this one in Arabic in layman terms ما قصروا. Ernst & Young and the rest of the pack. يعني a lot of data is being shared around MENA market, regulatories, quantitative, qualitative analysis. So fintech founders and C-suites, they have to leverage on that data. حتى funding data will actually one of the fintechs is called I think Eureka. It's a fintech that is fundraising for fintechs. يعني it's so funny actually. I find it very refreshing. حتى fundraising بقى ليها platforms. They have there are a lot of حتى يمكن I think there was another company called Fintech Galaxy. So there are a lot of organizations, companies, regulatory bodies, governments, and other fintechs that are serving this funding element of the fintechs. And I think يعني the hidden elephant in the room is talent. You need to network to find the right talent, because without the right team, again, it's going to be very, very hard to go live and adopt and stabilize and scale up in the right time.
Sure.
And to end my presentation, I think, yes, it's the best time to be an entrepreneur now. So lucky them.
Lucky them and lucky us to be in this together in this market at this very exciting time. I do have a couple of questions that need to be maybe answered, and then we go back to the presentation.
Sure.
Okay. There is a question about, okay. Ahmed Atiye is asking, what about the recent position of crypto asset in the Middle East, especially after the last action in the world, increasing the inflation rate, increasing the prices of the product, a bankruptcy of Lebanon, thank you so much for reminding us, and the suffering from the shortage, in the banking system. So all these effect and all these really very كتير أشياء يعني mega events اللي عم بتصير. What do you think is the effect of those mega events on the fintech industry?
Okay, يعني I think he's touched base on a number of points that are rocking the boat on the financial sector in the MENA region. Actually, يعني بالglobal, inflation is actually, it's a much يعني more bigger topic of discussion than just MENA. يعني inflation, it's in the United States, it's in Europe, and it's in the يعني it's being felt at almost all the global regional markets. يعني it's an unfortunate thing طبعا to have بس the adoption of the digital currencies. And let us zoom in into the question. We're finding a joint CBDC framework, Ahmed, being signed by Saudi Arabia and UAE. This is an indicator of what's going to happen in the next few years. You're seeing companies like Coinbase gaining license in Bahrain, and very, very shortly gaining license as well in UAE. Ethereum is coming again, having some sort of presence in the GCC market. So the adoption of cryptocurrency, again, there's a disclaimer here, which is also my opinion, is here to stay. لأنه it's something that has to be acknowledged because everyone now is going to. يعني the flip side of the coin, there's only 3% of the world population that are in dealing with cryptocurrency, but the rate at which the adoption of cryptocurrency is being done in the world is very, very, very fast-paced. We're having also even private companies. So we're talking about stable coins, someone like Aramco discussing stable coins, someone like ADNOC. Yani it's I think it's here to stay across different ecosystems. So we're going to find governmental bodies talking cryptocurrency, and the big firms of the region طبعا talking about that, and the most يمكن stable or most funded cryptocurrencies in the world, يعني namely the big four or the big five are here to stay. طبعا the rest of the 98% يعني today we cannot see as much. They're gonna be much more vulnerable or fragile, يمكن volatile كمان to global issues or matter like طبعا political unrest, bankruptcies, inflation, and the sorts. But cryptocurrencies in its wider discussion is here to stay.
Yeah, I think you touched exactly on the point. Like any other industry, the political aspects and the environment that we are living in is very effective on each and every industry. But what you already mentioned about the disbelief and distrust that is being one of the major things that made the fintech industry fly and being more trendy. And this also answers the question, because like you said, all over the world there's a lot of big events, very mega events, and this بالعكس بتشجع وبتحط أكثر وزن على أنه يكون في عنا another way of solving our financial problems and needs actually, and this will be answered by fintech. Another question by Satish, she's asking about how the existing international fintech regulations get into Sharia law and also the P2P solutions.
Okay, Islamic financing has been around since decades now. Actually the biggest global adopters of Islamic finance is one of the top 5 is the UK, which is it's a good piece of information. طبعا we have Indonesia, Malaysia, we have طبعا obviously in the MENA region we have KSA, UAE, almost I think all the the countries that are having some sort of banking systems, they have an embedded Islamic financing in it. So it's part of the DNA of the region. How fintechs could be part of this equation. We are already seeing some fintechs that are solving some problem statements around Islamic financing. Again, being the intermediaries between the consumer and the bank, which has obviously the banking license and the custodian license of the fiat currencies. And they are present around. We've seen some in the UAE, we've seen some in KSA, and they are on the increase as well.
Exactly.
They're not from the top 3 or the top 5, let me put it this way, of the most funded fintechs. I've shown it earlier in my presentation. We've seen that it's payments, cryptocurrencies, BNPL, wealth management. They are the top notch. In terms of what are the business models of the fintechs that are getting the most funds, but servicing Islamic Sharia law or the Islamic financing is also part of the fintech ecosystem.
Yes, let me add one piece of information through the 2 years and a half that we've been dealing with fintech and KnowledgeNet. We have been seeing a lot of Sharia compliance finance. And let me add that maybe it's not the biggest funded, but for sure that they are the biggest serving in population. I think I have this impression that the fintech or Sharia laws and Sharia finance found a new way to deal and to market maybe and to introduce the Sharia compliance to the world, and it really made a lot of difference in unveiling this Sharia finance and how does it work and how does it serve. And in a lot of situations we did find that people non-Sharia maybe participants or practitioners found it really that made sense. And this is a new way or a new door for Sharia finance that opened. Another question by Ammar Hamdi. Thank you, Engineer Reem. What governments should do to break regulatory barriers for fintech startups?
Okay.
It's a huge question.
It's it's an interesting one. But let me maybe look at this question from a different lens. I think I read it last week in a global report that UAE was the #1 best place to have a startup in, and KSA was the 4th in that list. So I know that funding a new company or founding a new company comes with its own challenges, its own issues that need to be sorted out. God bless the founders and the startup owners, but yes, it's a 24/7 job. We've seen all the the mega and the giga entrepreneurs talking about that, namely Elon Musk and the rest of the pack. But the companies that are mentioned, GCC countries, KSA, Bahrain, UAE, and the rest of the GCC group, given that obviously there are some barriers to entry, which is طبعا it has to have some sort of validations, verifications to any startup to safeguard the wider population that they are governing. But again, on the flip side of that coin, it could be worse than that. As I said in the presentation, in one of the slides, the regulatory bodies have already created regulatory sandboxes, regulatory incubators, hackathons, a lot of programs that are being created. In Qatar, there is QFTH. In UAE, in Dubai, there is in DIFC, there is Fintech Hive. In Saudi Arabia, there is Saudi Fintech, or Fintech Saudi. Almost in all the countries, I don't want to miss one of the Fintech arms of the regulatory bodies. In Abu Dhabi, ADGM. In Oman, almost all the countries that are mentioned. In Egypt as well, there is a fintech arm emerging out of the government, again, that is servicing the fintech startups. Let me put it this way, Ammar. They have to enable fintechs for them to not lose the adoption of their population. لأنه we're talking about huge adoption in the MENA region. In 2021, UAE 75% adoption of fintechs, Saudi Arabia 74%, and Egypt 52%. So 52% of 105 million of population have used a fintech service at least once in the past year. These are very, very, very big numbers. So if you, I can help. I don't know how I can connect with this audience. You after this webinar, I'm on LinkedIn. If you guys want to reach out to me, I can provide some data around how to reach out to these. They're all publicly available. To these organizations, they can reach out to them and immediately connect to them. They're going to put you in some sort of category, whether you are pre-live, testing period, what kind of license that they're going to be providing you. So there is a lot of data around it and of help.
Yeah, that's very interesting. The thing I want to add to this question actually is that it's amazing how exponentially this is the first time, I think, that in the life of the government that a governmental entity are running around and trying their best to exponentially trying to solve the problems and enabling the fintech. Fintechs are, like you said, Reem, there's a lot of verticals in fintech. Some of them, they do not need as much legalistics and all of that, but the government, as you said, they are working 24 hours. This is something really huge that they are trying to enable the fintech. We are talking about financial services, and it's not a joke. It's not something that we can take lightly. So and the governments everywhere, like you said, are really reaching out to make the best regulation to in one part regulate and enable the fintech, and another part to secure and have a really secure financial ecosystem. Another question from, okay, I want to say to Ahmed, the sessions will be, inshallah, on YouTube, on KnowledgeNet page, on LinkedIn, KnowledgeNet also. Ahmed is also telling you that there is a Fintech CBE organization in Egypt, the home of
Central Bank of Egypt, yes.
Exactly. And
thank you, Ahmed, for sharing the link.
Yeah, so those are the entities that are working on the regulations. Okay, we did reach the end of our time. Let me just go ahead and summarize what we have learned here, and maybe we will be able to learn more with Reem. If anybody wants to reach out for her, she is very welcoming to all the questions, and she will try her best maybe to help in reaching out. So Reem, you started your presentation telling us that the major crisis, like the financial crisis in 2008, is created the untrusted, and this is one of the things that made fintech maybe the hive for the financial industry, for the financial sector. The other thing is the pandemic that also helped in recognizing and popularization of the fintech verticals. There is also, you said also that the funding is between 45 billion and 125 billion last year. And this is one of the questions I had in mind. Do you see the exponential of funding going through the next years, or this is the peak of the funding for the fintech?
It's yet to be unfolded, Maya. We're seeing a lot of new services that are emerging, لأنه essentially Fintechs are solving problem statements صح للwider population. يمكن underbanked and non-banked. فيمكن actually more so in the MENA region. So I think I'm predicting, this is it's just a guesstimate, that in 2022 funding is going to continue to be very abundant in the MENA region, especially لأنه essentially 70% of the MENA population is unbanked, let alone underbanked. It will continue to grow. The number of fintechs in the region are still not as per the global standards. They are lesser than the what are there in the rest of the world with respect to يمكن per capita أو per population capacity. فلا, I think there are going to be so many more fintechs emerging. There are so many more problems to solve in the financial world. مش بس financial, you have regtechs, subtechs, edtechs, insurtechs. There are so many حتى in the other sectors as well. And the funding is going to continue to grow in the MENA region. I think حتى governments they want to capture the unbanked population and the underbanked population. So fintechs, if you look at it from a different angle, it's a savior, it's a salvation for the financial sector or the financial economy at a wider group to capture the unbanked. And this is what Fawri did in Egypt. At some point, I think today, Fawri is 98 or 99% penetration in the Egyptian population. And we're talking about a financial service that is backed by, obviously, bank and...
The way you are describing it, I can see that this is very interesting in a financial way. It's not only the financial services that we are using or what we need, it's also the unbanked, all the other services and the social services that we can provide is very important. I just want to address
there's a question there.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. This is a very popular webinar. Karim, we did answer. Your questions reached me earlier, and we embedded your answers in the presentation and in the webinar. But anyways, if you do have more questions, I will be more than happy. And Reem also will be. I'm talking on your behalf, Reem. We will be happy to answer you privately if you want to reach out. No problem. Okay, I'm gonna continue my summary, and if there's another. Where can you learn about fintech? You contact us if you want. We can start you up.
Just a simple, not to create a bottleneck, just a simple Google search. Go to the links of the governments. They will take you to the links of the fintech arms, where you'll find a lot of incubator programs, hackathon.
You can start educating yourself with
discussions there, and you can take it up from there, my dear.
Exactly. You talked also, Reem, about 45% of unicorns are in fintech, which is a great number and huge, actually. You talked about the financial services, especially about payments and crypto and DeFi, which are emerging, and they are the most popular in fintech. On the others, thank you, Nada. On the other side, you talked about three very pillars, I think, that any fintech startup should acknowledge is when they are trying to build any fintech or any startup, but we're talking about fintech here, to be very, let's say, very mature or very curious about their technical choices and how do they choose their technical provider. You talked about here, okay, before that you talked about the emerging tech trends, about the open banking, about the blockchain being the father or the umbrella of the embedded finance, about being the umbrella of all the new waves in banking. Then you touched based on the blockchain and how it is embedded in all the financial services that we are yet to see or we are seeing already. Also, you touched base about the digital currency and how this is very important aspect of the fintech, because at the end of the day, it is a fintech, but in a new services and a new presence of in the financial world. And then you move to how to create a fintech that will serve you and will serve your vision and really have your the sky is the limit with your solution. The first thing that you talked about is the tech strategy, how to hire your technology provider in a very smart way and very precise way. You said that between 60% to 90% of any solution in the fintech is about technology. So if you are jeopardizing this much of your solution, this is very big risk that you are taking. You talked and on a very important note on the leveraging the regulatories, because flexibility. I mean, because if you don't have a regulatories in mind when you are building your fintech, it is a problem. You said something very, very important. It's very dear to me also, perfection versus agility. You choose the agility now, and then the perfection will come. You have to keep in mind that you will always be growing with your fintech. It's never gonna stop growing, so you don't have to have a perfect version when you are going to the market. And you talked lastly about the networking and how it is important, especially in this new and trendy world. It's not easy what we are doing. It's not easy, the industry that we are in, but there's a lot of data and funding and talent that are available for us with the Big Four and more have you in all the governmental entity that you already mentioned.
Yeah, let me just say one last thing, Maya. Earning trust should be at the core of everything that the fintech does: architecture, technology, business model, everything. لأنه it's all about scalability and adopting the wider population. They have to think of it always like that. Hence the connection to regulators, hence the technology stability and scalability, hence the adoption of the new tech sciences and tech architectures to future-proof their business model. So it's all about gaining trust.
Gaining trust, especially in this kind of world. Very, very critical. Thank you so much. We are unfortunately on the last minutes of our webinar. It has been really a pleasure. A lot of requests of this video being recorded and sent by link or by website. It is there. It will be in a few days, I think. Our tech team will work on that. Thank you so much for Reem for your time. Any other questions anybody has, they can contact us and we can direct them, or maybe we can answer them directly. Have a great evening, Reem, and we will connect soon. Thank you, Elle.
Same to you. Thanks, Maya. Thanks, everyone.